Well, happy Sunday, everybody. It is October 20th. This is my second sit of the season. Haven't had a lot of time to get out, but I haven't had a lot of deer mode on my cameras for the last week or so. It was pretty good at the end of September and then coming into the first couple weeks of October, but it's slowed down pretty substantially. Just a bunch of does on camera back here. Family friends. I guess you could call this a farm. Somewhat of a farm field, not far from where my parents live. But we were just starting to get a normal fall. It was cold and blustery and wet, and right now it's 70 degrees out, so I guess that's how it goes. My first ever archery buck was in 2017. And it was 75 degrees out when I killed that deer, so it could happen. This stand that I'm in, I'm on a hedgerow between two fields. There's an old overgrown field behind me here that used to be corn. And in this field, to my left here, there's a bunch of winter rye and alfalfa, a bunch of clover as well. And the deer have been, I have a camera set up down in the corner, and I'll spin the camera and you can see. I have one shooting lane, but this is where they're going to come out if they come out into this field. It's about a 15 or 16 yard shot. Nothing crazy. They're shaking a little bit. I think I hit her pretty good. Gave me a little mule kick as she ran off. Stayed in the field behind me, so. about 10 more minutes. Alright, you're not gonna be able to see me very well here, but it's been about 15 minutes since I shot. I just watched the video over again. I can't tell if I hit her in the shoulder or if I got enough behind her shoulder or not, but we're gonna get down now. She ran south into the field. She gave me a mule kick though, like I hit her pretty good. But I definitely saw my fletching go in. It's just hard to watch on the viewfinder right here, but I just really hope it wasn't the shoulder. Alright, I'm gonna try to find my arrow. I'm gonna do my best to document this as it's happening, but it's just me out here. Let's get down. Here. Where are we going? Where are you going? Can't tell if that's her up here or not. Turn right here. This place, I swear. Right here somewhere. Okay. We got her. there he is, everybody. Little button buck. Thought it was a doe coming through the tree line. Just couldn't see his little little nubs right here. Obviously, I would have rather have it be a doe, but can't change things now. I don't regret this at all. It's a good deer. He's gonna eat up real good. And I'm gonna get him in the Kubota here. Get him back to the house. Well, it is certainly warmer today than I would have liked. It was warm last night when I shot the deer, but it got up to like 70 degrees in the middle of the day. So I only let it hang overnight. I filled the deer, the chest cavity full of ice, and I made sure that the hindquarters stayed cold too. Looking over all the footage, I haven't edited anything together yet, but everything looks pretty good, honestly. The only thing I wish I could change is obviously that that deer was not a doe. It ended up being a button buck, but that's all right. I'm sure it won't be the last small deer I ever shoot. It happens to everybody. And trying to figure out why that was the case, so I couldn't tell the difference, but when I was looking over the footage, I realized that there was about 20 seconds from when I saw the deer, turn the camera on, and let the arrow fly. So the first thing I looked for when the deer made the tree line is I made sure that there were no horns. So it was an antlerless deer. Let the arrow go. I hit both lungs and the heart, which was it's a pretty good shot. It was pretty close, but deer probably went maybe 40 yards and piled up in the field. And then I didn't even realize it was a little button buck till we got to the deer, but it's totally fine. He's gonna eat up just great. It was so hot today that I quartered the deer out and I skinned it. I only let it hang for like 12 hours. And I got the deer on ice. It's all quartered up, the straps are out, all the meat's ready to be ground or cut into steaks. And I'm gonna head back into town, meet up with Sprague. We're gonna get all the cuts ready, all the steaks ready, all the roasts, all that sort of stuff, get it sealed. And then I haven't done a little deer catch and cook in a couple years. So after we get the deer cut up, stay tuned for that. But right now, let's head back into Burlington. Well, welcome back to the scene of the crime. Back down here in Charlotte. I know I said I was going to film some more cooking videos at the restaurant in town, but it's Friday, it's in the afternoon. We're actually open right now, so I'm going to try to not squeeze in between all the line cooks here to cook some venison while they're trying to fulfill some orders for the fine folks of Burlington. And I figured I'd spare you all from seeing the ridiculously tiny kitchen in my apartment. But that's all right, we're back down here. It is Friday, like I said. That deer was shot Sunday. It was cut up Monday. Put it in the freezer for a couple of days, and I pulled out one steak to cook tonight. We're gonna cook the bottom round off the hind quarter. And I'm gonna do it in a way that you'd probably have a steak cooked at a restaurant before, or you can actually do this with a multitude of different meats, right? You can do it with chicken, you can do it with fish, you can do it with pork. And I'll show you a little bit more what I'm talking about inside. And we're gonna keep this whole dish autumnal. So we're gonna do it with some mashed acorn squash, as well as some steamed haricots verts. Haricots verts, of course, the American enunciation for haricot vert, which just means green bean in French, by the way. So don't let any restaurant, especially one of mine, fool you into thinking that it's something fancier than it is, because it's not, all right? But let's go inside, let's get cooking. All right, we're inside, it's time to get cooking, all right? And just like I said in my last video, there's gonna be certain things that take longer than others. In this case, actually, the protein is gonna be one of the quickest things that we do. So we're gonna start with the squash, and these are a couple of fresh acorn squashes I just picked up from the store on my way down here. Go ahead and treat these just like you would if you were like mashing potatoes or making mashed potatoes, right? So I'm just gonna get all the outside skin off these squashes. We're gonna get them cubed up, and we're gonna get them boiling in some hot water until they're fork tender. And after that, what we're gonna do, just like I said, with mashed potatoes, we're gonna get a little butter in a pan, some fresh minced garlic, as well as some heavy cream, plenty of black pepper, and actually I put some sea salt in the water when I was boiling the squash. So I'm not gonna add any salt to the dairy mix here, but once the squash has been strained out in the sink, it's looking really good. It's fork tender, it is ready to combine with the dairy mix. Go ahead and pour that just right on top, and we're gonna mash it just like we would potatoes. And just go ahead and do that right now. Alright, squash is very much done. It's smelling really good. It looks really good. We're just going to go ahead and cover that, leave that on one of the back burners. Off heat. It's going to stay plenty warm until we get done cooking here. The thing that's going to take the second longest is actually going to be the venison itself. So like I said before, this is the bottom round off of one of the hindquarters of the deer. We're just going to let it sit on some paper towel here, kind of just dab it off and make sure that all the moisture is gone. I like to season my meat really simply. I just use a little bit of Lowry seasoning salt. I use that for almost everything that I cook. It's really good. It's more than just regular salt, but it's not too overpowering, so you still get to taste plenty of that animal, and just some fresh cracked black pepper. And that's just gonna sit here for a minute. The next thing we're gonna do is probably gonna make you a little bit uncomfortable, and it's gonna look weird here in a minute. But we are going to get a medium saute pan, just like a frying pan, uncomfortably hot, like burn your house down hot. But right before that happens, and right before you wanna call 911, go ahead and just hit it with a little bit of olive oil. You can use canola oil, grapeseed oil, whatever you want. And it's gonna smoke like crazy. But if you do this too soon, you're actually gonna burn your oil, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna make this dish come out very good. So right after we hit it with the oil, it's gonna smoke like crazy, and then we're gonna go ahead and put that venison right in the middle of the pan. It's gonna steam, it's gonna pop, it's gonna crackle like crazy. But what that's doing is you're getting a really good sear across the bottom of the steak. And I like my steak on the rarer side, medium rare. So after about like 30 to 45 seconds, go ahead and reduce heat. We're gonna flip that steak, we're gonna put it right back in the middle of the pan. After that, this is where it's gonna be kind of laborious, but trust me, it's worth it in the end. Go ahead and get a few pads of butter. I have about 3 pads or 3 tablespoons of fresh butter here. A few cloves of garlic, freshly crushed and peeled. Some fresh organic thyme, as well as organic rosemary too. So go ahead and get the butter in first. That's gonna melt very fast. Right after that, go ahead and get the garlic, get the other herbs, that's the rosemary and the thyme, in the pan with the garlic and the butter. And what we're gonna do, this is called basting, and I'm sure if you've been out before and you've ordered a nice cut of meat that has been prepared like this. So once that butter melts, that butter is cooking, it's screaming hot, and the garlic and the thyme and the rosemary is gonna impart a lot of flavor into the butter. And so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna tip the pan, so we're gonna get a kind of a pool, like a little reservoir of butter here in the bottom. And we're gonna take a large spoon, and it's gonna seem like a lot of work, but trust me, it's worth it. We're gonna be basting the butter. So we're gonna be taking spoonfuls of that melted butter that's getting imparted a lot of flavor onto the meat, and in turn, those flavors in the butter are gonna impart onto the meat as it's cooking. And so we're gonna give this, like I said, I went from high heat to low heat. So we're gonna give this about, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 minutes until really that butter starts to brown up enough to the point where that we don't wanna keep putting on top. At that point, go ahead and kill the heat. We're gonna pull it out of the pan. We're gonna get it back on the cutting board. Always important with any red meat that you're cooking, let your steaks rest. If you cut into them too soon, they're too hot, they're gonna, you know, people say bleed out. It's actually like the plasma located within the meat itself. It's gonna run like crazy. So always let your meat rest for a few minutes, but that's gonna be the perfect amount of time, because like I said, I got these haricots verts, these really fancy green beans. They need to steam for about 3 or 4 minutes. So the steak's resting now. Let's get those haricots verts steaming, and then we'll cut this thing, we'll plate it up. So stay tuned. Alrighty, ladies and gents, we are basically ready to rock here. The steak has been rested, the squash has been mashed, and the haricots verts are steamed. They're looking bright green, they're looking ready to eat. The last thing we gotta do before we start plating here is we gotta cut into this meat. Like I said, it's been resting for about a few minutes. I like my steak on the medium rare side. That's why it's a little bit more red. It's tender. It's smelling really good from all those flavors that the butter imparted as it was cooking. And as far as plating goes, if you watched the salmon river catch and cook that I did, we're gonna use the same sort of principle, right? So we're gonna make sure that we get a starch, a vegetable, and a protein with each bite. And in order to do that, we're gonna start with a layer of acorn squash mash across the bottom of the plate, just like this. Then we're gonna take a few of those freshly steamed haricot verts. They're looking bright green, they're ready to pop. They are gonna go right on top of that, and then we're just gonna place some of this bottom round right on top. And there you have it. It is ready to chow down. And as I said before in the last video, I just like the way that this came out. So we're gonna look at it for a few minutes, we're gonna admire it, and then we're gonna chow down. Well, I am very happy to report that this all went as planned. Everything tastes fantastic. I'm not gonna grade this one. This is very similar to the dish that I made for the salmon that I caught over in the Salmon River. At least the same presentation, the same concept, right? So you start with a starch, you have a vegetable and a protein. So I'm not gonna grade it, but I'm sure you can tell through the camera lens that it came out very good. I hope you picked up a couple of tips along the way as well. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And I know there's gonna be a few people in the comments that have their thoughts about the tiny deer that I shot. And you know, let me worry about that. You can worry about the deer you shoot. Just so you know, I'm gonna overlay this right now. This is actually what it looked like in real time. I had to doctor up a lot of that footage that you saw of me actually harvesting the deer just because it was dark. I shot that deer at 6:18 p.m. and legal shooting light was at 6:29. So it was just before dark, and as you can see, the first thing I checked as soon as that deer hit the tree line was we made sure it was a bald deer, which it was. Just happened to be on the smaller side, but again, I'm completely fine with that. Hopefully in a couple weeks, a much larger, cooler buck is gonna step out in front of my rifle and in front of my camera. But until then, I'm happy to wear the sombrero, or happy to wear, actually, these brand new blaze orange beanies now at the store tab at woodsnorth.com. If you wanna pick yourself one up, really appreciate that. Stay seen, stay warm, stay visible this fall in the woods. They're gonna be on sale for the rest of the fall, $25, which is basically what I paid for each one of them. And if you use code FALL24 at cash out, right, at your checkout, you're gonna get free shipping as well. And that's gonna be for all items for the rest of the year. I figured I'd get ahead of the whole Black Friday rush by a couple of weeks. But seeing as though I have about a half-hour drive back home into town, I'm gonna clean up here and I'm gonna skedaddle. So until next time, people, as always, be good. I'm Larry, this is Woods North, signing off. Peace.